Before language, there was understanding. Before sound, there was meaning. On Evimora, thought does not wait for words. It arrives whole, emotion, memory, intention, all at once. This is where communication begins. Here, this connection does not belong to the Phelan alone. All life thinks, not in words, but in impression. Creatures speak only to their own kind, mind to mind. A flock moves as one because it feels as one. A predator does not stalk blindly. It senses intention ripple through the air. Even the smallest insect is not alone in its awareness. And yet, sound still exists. Birdsong, insect hum, distant calls across forests and open plains. But these sounds are not empty. They carry intention. And the world responds, even to them. The song of a bird may leave faint ribbons of color drifting in its wake. The rhythm of insects may gently distort the air, like heat rising from unseen ground, subtle, beautiful, almost unnoticeable, unless one is looking. Life on Evimora does not choose between silence and sound. It lives in both. Among the Phelan, there is no separation between thinking and speaking. Meaning moves directly from mind to mind, layered, complete, unbroken. A single exchange may carry what was felt, what was meant, what was remembered, what was hidden. To them, this is not ability, it is existence. To the Phelan, misunderstanding is rare, not impossible, but rare. Because nothing is hidden by accident. A lie must be constructed, layer by layer, held together under pressure. And even then, something leaks. A hesitation, a fracture in tone, a memory that does not align. Truth is not easier on Evimora. It is simply harder to escape. Silence on Evimora is never silent. Entire conversations unfold without sound. Presence moves between people, like breath. To outsiders, it would feel overwhelming. To the Phelan, it feels like belonging. There are no truly private crowds, no silent gatherings. Even strangers brush against one another in passing awareness. A marketplace is not noise, it is a tide. Joy brushing against grief, focus crossing distraction, love passing quietly beside indifference. To walk through others is to feel the shape of the world itself. And to those untrained, it is overwhelming. Even when no one speaks, no one is alone. There is always something beneath thought, a quiet pressure, a shared awareness. Scholars call it the air noise. Not language, not voice, presence. In crowded places, it becomes a hum, comforting or suffocating, depending on how well one knows themselves. Because the greatest danger is not others. It is the self, reflected back without distortion. Every doubt, every fear, every hidden contradiction, amplified. There is no place to hide from what you already are. The mind is not a door, it is a series of gates, and every Phelan is taught how to control them, to open, to filter, to close. Because without control, thought becomes vulnerability. There are 3 core disciplines. 1, open hearkening. To feel others, not to listen, but to belong. It is used in ceremony, travel, and moments of shared existence. 2, selective veiling. To choose what enters, trust passes, noise fades. This is maturity, empathy, without surrender. 3. Vathrael. The veil drawn inward. Total silence. No air noise, no presence, no intrusion. Only the self. Used in grief, in danger, in power, and in something far more dangerous than all of these combined. There are those who cannot achieve Vathrael, not because they lack discipline, but because they fear what waits when everything else goes quiet. Without the noise of others, there is only one voice left, and not all minds are kind places to be alone. Thought is perfect, sound is not. To force thought into voice is to fracture it. Meaning splinters, emotion distorts, intention collapses. To the speaker, it feels like forcing the sky through a narrow opening. To hear spoken Phelan voice is to hear instability. Pitch bending where it should not, harmonics colliding, fragments of meaning slipping between tones. To an outsider, it sounds broken. To the speaker, it feels like loss, because no word has ever carried everything they meant. And on Evimora, sound does not disappear. It interacts. A laugh leaves drifting light. A cry distorts the air. Anger fractures space. Pain crawls across the skin like static. Children marvel at this. Adults learn caution, because the world is always listening. Nothing said is ever entirely gone. Phora remembers, not as memory, as impression. Echoes linger in places long after voices fade. A battlefield remembers anger. A sanctuary remembers peace. And some places remember things no one survived to describe. There is one universal law of voice among all Phelan. Vathrael first. Voice second. This was not always understood. Before the 5 Guardians of Light, Vathrael existed only as silence, not as control, not as discipline, and never as power. It was the Guardians who revealed its true purpose. That stillness was not absence. It was alignment. Only through Vathrael could thought become clear enough to shape the world without breaking it. Without it, voice was chaos. With it, voice became possibility, but something else had already begun to change. When Avinity and Morath became the moons, Phora did not simply grow stronger. It found rhythm, and within the Phelan, that rhythm began to answer back. The Avasi would come to call this moment Soleus, not chosen, not granted, recognized, a binding between the Phora within and the pattern above. From that point forward, no Phelan stood entirely alone in their resonance. Their connection deepened, focused, clarified. Some felt it as warmth, others as quiet. Where once spellcasting faltered, now it began to take form. Not through power alone, but through alignment sharpened by the moons themselves. It was this change that allowed the Phelan to do what had once been impossible, to stand against the Noctira, not as scattered resistance, but as something coordinated, something precise, something the darkness could no longer overwhelm so easily. And slowly, the tide began to turn. The hollow was not destroyed, but it was driven back, forced beneath the world, where it would remain, waiting. This is why silence is revered, not as absence, but as discipline. To remain silent when one could reshape the world is considered a greater act of power than speaking at all, because when sound carries intention, Phora does not simply hear it. It responds. Fear breaks structure. Anger twists form. Grief collapses resonance. And the world answers accordingly. Phelan vocal anatomy is not natural. Threaded through their voices are crystalline lattices. Phora reactive. Ancient. They do not vibrate. They resonate. Before sound escapes, intention passes through them, altered, amplified, bound. Ordinary speech becomes chaos, but under discipline, chaos becomes precision. All vocal interaction with Phora does not progress in steps. It settles into states, not levels to achieve, but conditions one enters, depending on alignment. State 1, noise casting, unaligned expression. The world shrugs, small distortions, harmless anomalies. Phora is not listening. State 2, res casting. Harmonic alignment begins. The mind quiets, breath steadies, Phora stirs. Listeners feel it, but the world still waits. State 3, true casting. Absolute alignment. No stray thought, no fracture, no hesitation. Sound becomes reality. Phora does not consider, it answers. No one chooses the state they enter. The state reveals the truth of their alignment. Witnesses describe a stillness, not silence, stillness, as if the world itself pauses to listen more carefully. Light bends, air tightens, thought sharpens into something unbearable, and then reality answers to those who witness it. True casting often sounds beautiful, harmonious, balanced beyond anything natural. Words flow like music, tone settles into perfect clarity, and those who hear it feel it, not as sound, but as emotion made undeniable. Because when intention is pure, it tends toward harmony. But this is not law, it is tendency. The Guardians made this clear. Beauty is not power, and power does not require beauty. A voice may fracture, warp, break into something harsh, even absurd, and still carry perfect intention, still shape Phora, still become reality. It is not the sound that defines the spell, it is the truth within it. Nothing answers without cost. True casting extracts, exhaustion, memory fracture, emotional unraveling, because the body is not built to carry that much meaning, and if there is nothing left to give, the spell takes from the soul. Some who cast do not lose strength, they lose pieces, a memory that never returns, a feeling that no longer exists, a name that no longer feels like their own. Power is not always paid in pain. Sometimes it is paid in absence. A curious truth remains. Phora is forgiving. At first, children are allowed to try, to fail, to misalign, because the world understands they are still becoming. But as one matures, expectation replaces mercy. The world listens differently. Where once it allowed mistakes, now it measures, weighs, decides, not whether you can shape it, but whether you should. There are those who master voice, the Ori scribes, keepers of the most sacred and ancient archives, the luminari, healers and experts in harmonic layering, tone and rhythm of resonant spellcraft. They do not speak, they sing. Their voices do not travel outward, they travel through memory, through emotion, through time itself. To hear an Phora hymn is not to listen. It is to be placed inside what once was. Phora hymns, memory songs, songs of restoration. These are not performances. They are interactions with truth itself. To hear one is to be changed. To attempt one is to risk breaking. There are rarer paths still. To shape Phora into form, not borrowed, not drawn, become. To be able to summon a Phora weapon was once known only by the guardians. Those who possess the skill and strength to do so now are held in the highest regard, and most are thought of as a legend or a myth. A weapon summoned is not held, it is an extension of self. When it breaks, so does the one who shaped it. Those who master this art are never entirely separate from it again, because once you have shaped yourself into something that can break, you begin to understand just how fragile you have always been. On Evimora, language is not sound, it is thought made visible. Voice is not expression, it is consequence, and silence is where truth waits before it decides to be heard. Because in a world where thought shapes reality, the most dangerous thing is not what you say, it is what you believe.